It's all right.
Can you make my hair look like this?
Oh, man, what you want to make your hair look like that for?
See, that's the problem with y'all today. Y'all don't know nothing.
Will you let the man tee you off? You yap worse than 6 barbers.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Your Barber podcast. I'm your host, Matt Ballad, a.k.a. Matty Blades on Instagram. Every handle is Instagram. Not going to mess around with too many other handles. I always forget to say this at the beginning. Please like and subscribe. If you're a continued listener, I appreciate the continued support. Keep rocking out with us. Going to continue to improve and keep going. And if you're a brand new viewer or listener, just look down and tap on that subscribe button real quick. It's pretty easy. So the Your Barber podcast is a podcast that was created to relate and inspire to the everyday barber, barbershop owner, or regular person that might become a barber, or just the person. And it's also created to chronicle the journey and story of my guest I have on, which brings me to this gentleman. We connected on Instagram, and he's got a podcast of his own called the Elevated Barbers Podcast, and he's also the owner of a shop called the Another Level of Barbering Barbershop and Suite. His name is Bradford Kelly, ladies and gentlemen. Let's bring him in to the show, my man. Thanks for making the time.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I like that smooth jazz intro too.
Yeah, man, it's a little Hova.
Yeah.
Gotta introduce you again, Brad Kelly. Thanks, Bradford, for coming on the podcast. Anytime you play Jay-Z, there's a good likelihood that you'll get pulled from whatever you're playing Jay-Z on. So, welcome to the podcast, my man. Thanks for hopping on my platform. You got plenty of platforms of your own going. And
yeah, man, it's an honor to be here. I've been noticing some of the things that you've been doing with your podcast and just trying to highlight the lives of everyday barbers, as you said, and I'm glad to be a part.
Got a little landscaping going on outside. If anything comes in, I apologize there on the audio side. But so, yeah, we connected on I was listening to your podcast this morning, actually. Doing a little research, like kind of getting into my guests, what they're all about. And it's a cool podcast. We also connected. We used a similar platform. And so I'm like, oh, you already know what it is, man. You're hopping on here.
Yeah.
You know how everything goes. I don't have to explain much.
Yeah. So if you don't mind me asking, what was the genesis of your podcast? Like what started it?
So I don't know. Just something dawned on me one day back in November of last year. I was just in the shop and had a moment. I was sitting down and I don't know. I just had the realization. I was like, man, we're like people. We're not robots. Sometimes we get caught as like a cog in the wheel and you're just churning them out all day. And sometimes the customers view it that way. And it's like, nah, we go through stuff too. And I was going to call this Your Barber is a Person podcast, but it's a little too long-winded. So I was like, Your Barber podcast, which, it's your barber who's a person and a family man and a
husband,
another guy, man, just going through everything. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, that was kind of the genesis. And I had an idea just like you. You have a co-host, the Prince.
Yeah.
What's his government? I'm trying to remember.
His government name is Delmar.
Delmar
Deer.
Delmar. I'll try to get him on here too as well, man, eventually.
Oh, yeah. He'll be happy to be on here.
Absolutely, man. So, yeah, I always dive into a little bit of an icebreaker. It's before we hop into your background because we're going to get to know you a lot more. It's called Just an Observation, right? So I got a lot of observations going. And so I just got back from this long trip out of the country. About a long trip, I consider is like 5 days sometimes, but this one was like 12, 13 days.
Oh, okay.
And
you really went there.
Yeah, South America. You kind of gotta get bang for your buck when you're out of the country. It seems.
Yeah.
So, I'm my wife's to thank for that. She's always pulling me out of the country, getting me to explore more and test the limits. So she's and for that I'm grateful because I'm more of a hermit type. If I didn't get brought out of my shell more, which I do like once I'm out, but it takes a second sometimes.
Yeah.
So I've been sharing a lot of stories with my clients lately.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm getting, slammed, and me getting slammed is like, the limit for the day of clients at my shop. And then just what I like to handle is probably in that 12 to 14 range.
Okay. Yeah.
Because, we charge a pretty premium price. We're in Midtown Atlanta, and
Okay.
it's 14 is probably the limit for me, maybe 15 on a wild day.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
So yeah, we're trying to work a little smarter, not harder, but I still work pretty damn hard. But so I'm telling a lot of stories to my clients, and I'm observing towards the end of my day, I'm like recycling this story over and over.
Yeah.
And every time I get a little better at telling it, it's like almost a comedian working out a bit. You're just
yeah.
you're polishing it over time. And then by the end of the day, I'm like, I just told one of my clients, it was like, because I didn't quite get to this main story I was telling everyone, which it was like a sketchy situation we were in Colombia that we were, 93% of the trip safe, but like there's that 7% in there that it happened. So
Yeah.
I was getting into that with my clients, and one client, I'm just like, dude, we'll save this for next time. I've been telling a lot of people this story, but starting to run a little behind on my day. I gotta expedite this one. But yeah, so you ever do that? You realize that and then the people around you, your barber brethren, like they're hearing this story.
Yeah, it's like okay, man, how many times we gonna tell this?
Yeah.
How many times we gonna tell this story?
Yeah, like I hate to be like I'm not aware that they're hearing this story a lot too, but it's the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah, but it's so interesting because each client that you get in the chair, they're gonna be a new person to tell the story too.
Yeah.
So and a lot of times if you know them, then you know what parts of the story that can connect with them, and it builds the relationship with that individual. However, everybody else is witnessing this, and even you may be tired of saying it, but it's good. It's good to build the relationship. So I've had to do that, and I've done that multiple times. You take a trip, or you have like a serious event happen to you, and you be like, I'm about to go to the when this podcast airs, it'll be like a couple weeks ago. But I'm about to go to Cal Barber expo.
Oh, nice.
It's out here in the Bay, and that's where I live at, is in the Bay area. So
yeah, we didn't touch on that. So
where I'm from and all that.
Yeah, where are you from, my man? Well,
yeah. I'm from I'm born in Berkeley, California, raised in Berkeley, California. Didn't leave Berkeley, California until I was 19, and then moved to moved to Hercules, which is another city in the Bay. And then ever since I've kind of been grown, I've been in San Leandro, and now I live in the San Ramon area of the Bay Area.
Nice. Sticking in that Bay Area. That's cool, man.
Yeah, we got the best weather on earth, I think. That's my argument.
Yeah, it kind of stays the same year round, right?
Yeah, I think the only place that has like comparable or maybe even a little bit better is like San Diego, which is still West Coast. But
yeah, San Diego is nice. Yeah, we visited San Francisco last year, and it was like, I'm like, whoa.
Now that's
a little colder than I thought.
Yeah, that's a little cold. That side of the Bay is colder.
Yeah, exactly.
The side I'm on has a little bit more warmth and a little bit more heat. But we don't experience too much rain. But man, for the last couple of years, California been burning down.
No doubt, man.
Like wildfires like crazy.
No doubt.
But I'll still take that over y'all Atlanta heat, bro. Y'all Atlanta heat.
Yeah, man.
No bueno. Been out there.
It gets pretty rough, man.
You sweating for no reason, man. I'm not cool with that.
Yeah, all my clients were like, was it as hot in Colombia as it is here? And I'm like, well, man, I just got back at 1 a.m. I haven't really got a chance to gauge it. I'm in here during the day. I'm out at night.
Yeah.
But Atlanta, you were saying, man, you were like getting ready to get into a.
Oh, man, I forgot, bro.
Yeah, my bad. That's what I do, man.
Man, I'm at that age, man. If I get cut off, it's gone, man.
Yeah. I'm trying to do that a lot less.
I'll be messing with my clients. I think we was talking about like stories when you
the story you keep recycling and polishing. Yeah. Then by the last client of the day, if you're able to muster it, it's like you're this master storyteller.
Yeah, and
You add a new
man,
wrinkle.
that was good. That
Yeah.
was good.
Yeah.
I tell my clients, like, if I'm ever like in a full blown like soliloquy with them and I'm going in it, I say, hey man, do not interrupt me right now, because if you cut me off and you like make me think of something else, I'm at that age where it's gone. Like the thought before, I had to commit all my energy to this next thought, and so if you interrupted, I'd be like, what was I saying?
Nah, sometimes I'm ready to write. I'm like, all right, finish. All right, so yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, all right, finish your shit. I'm getting into mine now. All right, no.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that was my observation. It was just, I noticed that. I was like, man, like I tell, because you're trying to get through all your clients, make sure they know, because every client's like, hey, how was your trip? And you're like, all right, I gotta get into it now.
Yeah. What I think, one thing that I've learned to do when it comes to stuff like that is to segment the parts of the day, or segment the events that I want to deliver. Like, I won't tell a client everything. I'll tell a client about the beginning of the day, or I'll tell a client about the crazy one event, or I'll tell another client about the end of the day or something emotional that happened. But I always split it up so that way I personally ain't even telling the same story all the time, because it can get draining.
Yeah, you kind of like tailor it to what they're into too.
Yeah.
So it's in essence, you're telling a different story every time. You're telling, like, you're painting it in a different light every time. But your barber beside you still getting pissed off about.
It could be if you don't tell it right. If you don't tell it right, sometimes,
especially if you notice he's like super quiet, he hasn't said a word. I'm like, dude, he's getting tired of me running my yap all day. So yeah, I gotta get through all of them. So unfortunately, some stories will be told. We like master our storytelling. It's kind of crazy how we develop that craft as well. Just like talking to random people. It's like we are now. We're pretty random people to each other.
Yeah, for real. We're pretty random people to each other, but we know how to dialogue and feed off of each other so that it could be a productive conversation.
No doubt, man. Yeah, and plus we got the barber connection, man. You can talk to any barber. Get a couple barbers together, some things will be said, 100%. So yeah, man. So let's get into your background a little bit. So you're from the general Bay Area, right?
Yeah.
So growing up, what was kind of some of your interests, or like what was like growing up like? What was, did you go to school, college? Did you
I went to school, thankfully. All public schools. I grew up in Berkeley. Graduated from Berkeley High, and at the time period of graduation, I was graduating class of 2004. Okay. And at that time, real estate was huge, so everybody was into real estate, and I thought that's what I was going to do. I wanted to do real estate appraising, and I knew a lot about who I was, though, as a person. So me and my mom, we used to get into a lot of arguments about if I was going to go to a typical college. If I was going to go to college, she wanted me to go to college. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. But she pretty much tried to force me into going into college. But I was horrible even in high school from the way that the structure of education is delivered. And so I was like, okay, college ain't going to be for me. So she made me take a Strong's assessment test. It kind of gives you the insights to different career options that you can, have. And one of the things that it said was real estate. And the other thing was saying I'm being an entrepreneur. And because I saw real estate and I was around people that was in real estate, I was like, oh, I'm going after that bag. So I just looked at real estate appraisal, started taking some classes. But because I knew myself, like I was saying, I knew certain things that I didn't want to do on a daily basis. I didn't want to be stuck in the office. I knew I didn't want to be working on a laptop or a computer of any sort. In high school, my computer got stolen from me. They robbed my house, and my mom
bad experience with the computer. I don't want to see this thing.
I didn't. Once they stole it, my mom never got another one. So anything that came with a computer was a lot of work for me. So it just built up an intolerance for it. I was just like, if I got to deal with computers, I don't want to deal with it. I just got used to my cell phone. So if I couldn't do it on my cell phone, then I didn't really want to deal with it.
It's funny you say that, because like when I was, you're probably about a full graduating class older than me.
Mm-hmm.
And so
you graduated 05?
I graduated. No, I mean a full like I guess, high school tour in front of
Oh,
me.
I'm
Like,
real older than you.
so yeah, I
I do got
graduated
gray.
09.
I do got a little gray.
Yeah, I'm starting to sprout too, man. Yeah, my beard too. I got this. I got the vacation beard. I'm having fun with it still, but yeah, it's funny because like Facebook came out. It was kind of thriving like 07-ish, 06,
Mhm.
07. And I tell people, I'm like, I missed the whole MySpace run because it was just
Yeah.
like a time period in my house where like the computer just was not functional. Like it was done
Yeah.
for. So when the computer came back into the game, we got like, actually like high speed internet,
Yeah.
things like that.
Are you old enough to remember the dial-up noise?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
AOL back in the day,
AOL,
man.
yeah. That was
You're
crazy.
sitting there like hanging out with your friends, like, check this shit out, man. This is about to be, check this. Like, just trying to be cool, and you're like talking to like six
It's like,
friends.
I
The
remember that
the
sound.
little person like walking across the 3 panels. It's like, we made it. Sometimes it like
Right.
fail, but yeah, man, that's funny. My bad. So
No,
yeah,
you good. No, so
you
I
kind of
was
knew what you wanted to not do,
yeah.
especially, right?
Yeah, so once I got into the real estate class and they started to explain more and more about what was involved, I was like, oh no, this ain't gonna be me. I don't want to write no reports every day or trying to get back to people in a timely manner. Like that's not my where I want to be.
Yeah.
And then it came back to my mind, a conversation that I had with some friends in high school about being able to be a part of a barbershop or start a barbershop because we knew some owners of a salon. It was a really nice salon. And we were like, man, we would be cool if we did that. And
And do you
so
have any idea like what it took to become a barber, like the
no,
licensing or okay?
nothing. I had
Yeah,
no
not a lot
I
of
had,
people do, man. Not a lot of outsiders do.
yeah,
It's such a weird thing. They just think you could just
do
start
it.
and there you go, man.
But
You are
that's
certified to hold a razor to someone's Adam's apple. Like, no, it's not how this works.
that's not how it works at all. And I mean, just the hours it takes to kind of get your license and whatnot. But what's glorified is the person that's in the garage cutting their friends, that's in
Right.
the bathroom cutting their friends, and it doesn't look like a profession. It looks like a
No.
hustle, and so it's promoted that way. So therefore, people's perception is that way when it's not true.
Yeah.
But
Just
I
a
had
bunch of
no
fellas
idea.
BSing,
Yeah,
got the newspaper up. Did you hear about so and so? Like, yeah,
just talking crazy
typical,
and
yeah.
yeah, and you have that community feel in a lot of barbershops, which is good. You need that because camaraderie is built. That's where barbershops live. Is in that camaraderie and that dialogue. But I had no idea how to become a barber. I just was like, man, that would be cool. So I remember in that high school conversation with my friends, I was just like, hey, man, I'll go to school if somebody go to school with me. All of my friends was like, oh yeah, no, we was just a conversation.
Books? Oh no, man, I'm out.
this was just talk. We just talking.
Right.
So I dismissed the thought in my mind, but after I took the real estate principles class and I kind of was feeling like, man, this ain't gonna be for me. That thought came back to my mind, and my cousin had just come back from Vegas. So, and he came back to the Bay Area from Vegas. He had moved to New York and then went to Vegas and then came back to the Bay. And we had reconnected, and he was already in barber college. And so I was like, hey, I remembered the thought, and I was just like, hey, you mind if I go to barber college with you? Like, you think I could do that? He was like, I don't care what you do.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, man. So I signed up, and I mean, from the moment I had the conversation with him, I was probably in barber college within a week. My mom didn't even know I got in. I just got in. The guy, it was kind of a little shady. I'm not sure how he did it, but he got me some financial aid. I had to pay a small amount of money for for the school, and I went in there guns blazing.
Yeah, man, the financial aid, that's actually hard to find in a lot of barber colleges and schools. It's just like, I feel like that gives them full reign to charge like whatever they want when they can offer financial aid.
Yeah.
The college I went to, luckily it wasn't like that. You had to put $1,000 down just for your tools. And then they would kind of like figure out a payment schedule or, if you didn't have the money, there would be, it's not like get out of here, you're done. Kick rocks. No, they were like, we'll work with you. Come on, like we're here for you. We're here to like expand the generation of barbering, and I got so lucky because the school was like 10 minutes away, like, and it just so happened to be one of the best schools I could have went to.
My school was, well, if you knew the Bay Area, like I worked in Berkeley and I worked overnight. So I was working at 24-hour fitness when I was in this scenario. And so I worked the graveyard shift, get off at like 7 in the morning, had to be at school by 8. So I had to catch BART to San Francisco because that's where my barber college was at. It was called Bayview Barber College.
Okay.
And so if you all are aware of like big time barbers on the internet, you might have been exposed to them as you were growing in the industry. But Timeless Vic, are you familiar with him? He does a lot of YouTube podcasts and tutorials. I'm not podcasts, but YouTube tutorials.
I feel like I've ran across that name before. Yeah,
Vic Damone. And then another one was Cake and His Randy. These were all classmates of mine, so they got big on YouTube, like super big on YouTube. But while we were in school, I didn't even know that they were doing this stuff. Like I was very ignorant to computers, like I said, and just the internet space in general.
Yeah.
So
I mean, starting barber school, did you have any like prior like experience? Like,
no, man. I
started off fresh,
completely green, completely. Yeah. Had no idea.
It's cool. It's so humbling, and that's why it's like so special. You're talking about starting with someone else. Like I got lucky my first day and I was starting with someone else. That's someone you like you bounce off of the whole day. You're like, what's he doing? How am I? Oh man, he's doing it like that. Oh, like, so let me do this right. And it's a whole lot more consumable that way. And, you can kind of relate to your buddy in school, even though the instructor is telling you the same way he's doing it. It just resonates a little better when you see someone else. And
you feel like you get an inside scoop. You be like, hey man, what did he say right there? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
And they
they're like, yeah, he said it like this, but it's obviously easier if you just do it like that. Like, it's like, so you were super green coming in. Okay.
They asked me, I remember when they sat me down and they were saying, okay, so have you cut any hairs? And I was just like, nope. They were like, you've never cut your own hair? Nope. And they were like, what makes you want to be a barber? I was just like, I think I could learn. I think I could do it.
Did you have hair when you started barber?
Yeah.
Me too. I had to slip that one in. But
man, at that time I still had the waves, man. At that time I still had waves.
Okay.
I was situated properly, man. But as
that's a lot of upkeep too. So that you went to a barber then.
Yeah, I never cut my own hair ever. And so even until
you got taste of that culture though, and that like so when you got your hair at your barber, were you ever like, oh man, this is awesome, like this is something I could see myself doing? Did you ever?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, no. When I was getting haircuts, I never was thinking, oh, I could do this one day. Now, the one thing that I will say that I recognized when I was younger about the barber was the wad of money that he pulled out to give me change. I was just like, bro, you out here with it right now. Were
you one of these clients that were like starting to count their pocket? You're like, okay, how many heads a day? How many days a week?
No, I didn't do that. I noticed the bundle. I noticed the bundle. I was like, man.
The client I'm talking about though, does that. You're like, okay,
they're looking at you count so that they can. I just like, hey man, back up. Like,
start looking at your shoes. You're like, okay, all right. It's like, all right, man. You gotta start generalizing. All of a sudden, you're like, it's good. But so seeing those other like future stars, like, you could see the stardom then? They already kind of had things rolling for them.
No, I didn't see it. I didn't know what they were doing. What they were doing was documenting their growth. And when you document your growth, you start to get a following of people that want to see where you're going. Then you start to be able to turn back and tell those people how to do what you did. And that's what they did. And it was a brilliant move. And I don't even know if they knew how brilliant it was, but
Yeah.
it was brilliant, and they became very, very popular on not Instagram, but on YouTube. And it was like before Chris Basio was doing his thing.
Right.
So they were pioneers when it came to that YouTube space. It was really good to kind of see them at a last barber expo that I went to, and just kind of reconnect and catch up with them.
Have you ever had trouble like comparing yourself to them, like when you, especially at that level, but
I mean,
even like
never,
beyond, once you did find out, you were like, oh man, let me check what my guys are doing. Like,
well, nah, like it was
it's
very
hard, dude. It's natural. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That
but
do that.
for me,
a lot of barbers do.
And this probably just came from life. My mom always taught me to never look at somebody as like better or worse, but different,
Right.
and learn. So as I grew in the industry, I would pay attention to what people did that were positive. I would pay attention to things that people did that I felt were negative, and then I would just learn from it. If they ever were doing something positive that I wanted to learn from or learn more about, I would just talk to them, ask them about it. And if I was ever doing anything that was beneficial to them, I would tell them about it. Like there was no gatekeeping when it came to that. And so my comparing thing, I didn't really do that until I got on Instagram. When I got on Instagram, that's what I started comparing, because I was just like, hey man,
that's a lot of what I'm referring to too. A lot, you know, it's easy to do on the gram for sure.
Because it's an environment of pride, vanity. You know what I mean? So you're trying to flaunt.
I wish it was more of just trying to share. You know, it could be an expression of art. It could be just like, look what I'm seeing. I have to show people this.
Yeah.
And that turns into like a, you know, a dopamine thing, a satisfaction thing. And then it kind of goes off the rails a little bit. But,
especially if you're putting out information that's not real. You know, you're trying to put, it's like a facade of who you are.
Yeah, exactly.
Real deal.
Start taking pictures next to lime green Lamborghinis that aren't yours. Like, chuck up the juice. Like, no, a little too much of that sometimes.
That's that
but yeah, man. So that's a cool thing though, that you're able to kind of stay grounded, not compare too much. And I was the same way though, like knowing what I didn't want for sure. And I wanted to start barber school like the first time I dropped out of college. And back to like what your mom was saying, that was the way my dad was. My mom was always like, do whatever you want, whatever makes you happy. But my dad always had more of a plan. It was like, oh no, well, you're definitely at least doing this, and then you can kind of figure it out. But the whole college thing, that just wasn't in my story. It just there was just something motivation wise that like. And then every time I dropped out, I was more on like, okay, now this is costing me money. Now this is like, I'm paying for this, whether it's now or later. Like I'm wasting time. And when I can't figure out what I want to do, that time keeps ticking. You know, I'm not doing anything, but the time keeps moving. So I'm going to take a step back and try to figure out what I really want to do. Like instead of wasting time and money.
And those years are so critical in regards to you being able to put the maximum amount of energy towards whatever it is that you want to do, because you're young, right? You know, you right out of high school and you got all this energy. It's like, do what you want to do. You know, do what you want to do first. Try to figure that out and go after it. And
I had no like influence either in barbering. It was all me. Like,
really? Like, so no family member, no experience from a past cut?
Artistic expression in my family tree, dude. Everyone's hard workers. It's funny you said that, because like I kind of had, you know, I would enjoy trying to draw. You know, I would trace a lot for some reason. I have this memory of my dad being like, look at that. Huh. I traced something like did you do that pretty good? I'm like, yeah, but he traced it. Like,
I followed the line.
That's what we're talking about. Like, we're talking about complimenting tracing. That's the level of artist, you know, of artists in my family. So there was just no push towards like, you know, anything in that space. So of course, when I have an idea in that space, it's very difficult to get someone to understand. So you know, my dad, you know, rest his soul, he passed away in 2015, and I really didn't start my barber dream until he passed away, because and it all kind of happened, and it's all connected on how I was able to achieve without having to feel the pressure of what he would think. So of course I would love to have him here, especially now that I'm on the other side. I have a daughter, I have a wife, I have a house. I feel great in my career, and I want to talk to him all the time about, like, you know, bounce stuff off. It was like, see, I did it. Like, I told you, dude. Like, but you know, you have someone with a 1950s mind state. Barbering is a completely different thing. Like, so, you know, it's an interesting thing, man.
I like the way that you said about your dad having an impact on the way that you view things. Because my mom, she was the same way for me. She helped me, like, she was the one that let me cut hair inside the house when I didn't have like a place to go, you know. So she like really supported the dream. It wasn't no dream. She just supported my move towards going to being a barber, even though she wanted me to go to college. So
it wasn't like, you're not cutting hair in this house. Like,
no, man. She let like random strangers come to the house. And when I first got into barbering, and I was in barber college, I was still trying to get clients and all this stuff. But I would have like friends that I knew, she didn't know them, come to the house. And they would come literally in the house upstairs, and she let me set up the third bedroom that we had. And I was just like, okay, this is how we'll do it. But then when we moved to Hercules, which is the first time we moved out of Berkeley, the reason why she wanted this particular house when she got married was because they had this area inside the garage that she was just like, he can use this for his barbering thing.
Oh, wow.
So she like really looked out for me. Yeah, she looked out for me and really supported the movement of me becoming a barber. So I love her for that. Awesome, she passed in 2012. And
wow. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah. No, so I share the condolences with you when it comes to your dad. But it's just like the impact of those figures in your life and how they supported you. Some could be from a strength perspective, and then some can be from an emotional support. But either way, they've impacted you and you've moved forward because of them. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, man. I miss just calling them and just like, you know, bitching and moaning about something.
Yeah.
We're like the same person. So like if I, you know, once I got into this and showed him I could do it, you know, just the little gripes here and there about building clientele or just shop stuff and if it's the city or traffic or what it's like here in Atlanta, like I'd love bouncing off of them because I'm like, right? Like, you know, a lot of that. But, you know, but it's so weird. It's such a catch-22 because I've having a lot of realizations, a lot of reflecting lately. And I'm just like, would I even be here if he didn't pass away? Like, aside from whatever financial things that were passed on, like just having his presence, would I be afraid to kind of leap at certain things that I leaped at throughout those journeys? And it's like the last 12 years is like when he got diagnosed, it's 12 years ago. And it's just like everything kind of shifted after that. It's really weird. But so it's a crazy thing to think about.
It is, but it's a cool thing to think about, man, because you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that connection with him through that. So I'm with you, man. We could literally keep talking about the parents situation. No. I know you want to move further in the conversation, so I don't want to.
And even now, dude, it's like my wife. Like my wife's really kind of indifferent about barbering. She's not like
so is mine, bro.
Yeah, so like
she not tripping. My mom cared, man.
My mom cared. I would come home from barber college and I would just talk to her about clients or different people that was coming, or she would be like, "What are you doing this weekend?" I was like, "Oh, I got to go to San Francisco. I got to cut somebody or whatever." And she was like, "Really? You going all the way out there?" And she would talk to me about it. My wife, man, I love her. I love her, man. She gets tired of hearing me talk about work stuff. She's like,
"Oh yeah,
okay, bro." All right,
Bradford. I got it, man. I got it. No.
Yeah. Rough day. Long day, got it.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, you're not gonna ask how my day was. I was on my feet. All right, it's all right. I love what I do anyway. So it's no big thing. But with that, I use that to an advantage because I influence me. There's no influence.
Yeah.
So it's honestly beautiful that way, and it's, you know, you're not worried about anything about what anyone, you know, thinks. It's just it's you, man. So that kind of, it's easy to progress like that. It's easy to maintain like that too. So my bad, man. I cut you off. So you're in school and continuing through school. How many hours does it take to get through?
For us, it was 1,500 hours.
Yeah, so same. Yep,
Same?
that's why I went there. So I'm in Arizona where I got my barber license. So
okay,
wasn't too far away. So I was in Mesa and I lived in Tempe and the greater Phoenix area. You ever been out there?
No, I've never been there.
It's a big city in the desert, man. It's hot, but it's like you're not outside in it.
Dry heat,
you know what I mean?
Dry heat.
People get a little weird about it. No, it's hot. That dry heat stuff, that's all BS, man. That's all a facade. That's
all a facade.
It's hot, dude. It's like being in an oven. That is being in an oven like lesser than like everyone tries to like lighten the blow with it, like the dry heat stuff. It's 120, dude. Yeah. There's no change in 120, whether it's dry or wet. It's hot.
When you can see heat waves,
yes,
it's a problem.
When the street signs start bleeding like it's graffiti, but it's just the heat, dude.
Yeah,
yeah, that's hot. So school was something that was pretty readily available in that city, so I was super lucky. So getting out of school, what were the steps there?
So getting out of school was, where do I go to work? I didn't have like a shop lined up immediately, and I didn't know where I wanted to work specifically.
So you graduated as like a free agent. You were still looking when you finished everything?
Yeah, I didn't have anything. Well, I shouldn't say when I graduated. I was looking for places to go before I was taking my license. Like before I went to take my license, and I
totally understand that, because sometimes it's like, let me focus on this before I start jumping ahead, focusing on that. Then you lose track of what you're doing then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like shop hunting before I got my license, and I didn't find a place until like maybe the month before I was about to take my barber's exam.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah. Same. And I connected, man. The way that I got into the barbershop was so crazy. First off, in my head, I have a way that I always want to present myself, to anybody. So anytime I would go to interviews and stuff, I was always the person that would wear a suit or at least a slacks and a button up, just to kind of present myself a little bit different than maybe somebody else.
It's impactful.
Yeah, the way that you visually appear says a lot about how you'll kind of show up on a daily basis for, whoever's looking at you, or at least to give them the impression. Yeah. And so I was having it wasn't like a bad day, but it wasn't the greatest day. And my friend, we were talking about something. I was like, hey, man, let's go to the mall. And so I could just buy some stuff. But I was looking so hobo-ish, man. I just had some sweats, so a hoodie. And I would not have wanted to present myself like this if I was going to ask for a job.
Of course.
For any job. And while I was at the mall, this particular barbershop happened to be inside of our mall.
Okay.
And something was just like, go in there and see if you could get a job. And I was just like, oh no. Like, I was looking at myself. I was like, I can't go in there. And I told my friend, he was like, man, I didn't know there was a barbershop in here. You should try and see if you could get in. I was just like, why did you just say what my mind just said to me? So anyway,
what year was this?
This was 2007.
2007, okay.
2007. So I was like, you know what? Who cares, right? Like, who cares? Who cares? So I go to the barbershop and it was like the typical urban community barbershop.
No one looked at you when you came.
It's like, no, it was like this one guy sitting outside, and he looked up. He was just like, need a cut? Need a cut? And I was like, nah, I'm trying to see if I could get a job. He's like, oh, the owner in there. And like went back to his phone and like just dismissed my whole existence.
That was the new guy that was trying to look for.
Yeah, he might have been new himself. So he was just like, oh yeah, he in there. So I go in there, and it's like, it's so now I really like pay attention to this now that I own my own suite, and you kind of understand the psychology of someone that walks into an environment that's not their own. And when I walked into that barbershop, it was like it's almost like I felt pressure. the moment that I entered the door because no one spoke. They just looked. And I was like, I don't know what to say. So I
You're
had
just
to
like kind of walking by, like, hey,
yeah,
hey.
yeah, like you try not to make too much eye contact because you don't know what you
man? How you doing?
so people just looking at you and they don't say nothing though. They just look. And so I walked past like a few barbers, and then finally I got eye contact with somebody that looked like they would allow me to speak to them. And and I was just like, I'm looking for the owner. It's like I'm a barber trying to see if I could get a job. And every time I would say that, you would see their face. It was almost like hate. It was almost just like he back there. Like it was like like let me live, man. Let me grow, bro.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm big on, dude. Anyone new, I get that. Everyone else in the room might feel like, oh man, come on, another client that's taken away from me.
Yeah,
like it's not, dude. It's a team. Like I love always making sure I introduce myself and make sure I come in peace.
Yeah,
hey, I'm gonna be a pleasure to work with, someone that you could always talk to or ask something to. So I never want to be like this guy in the corner with the mean mug. Like you never want to do that, dude.
Yeah, man. But yeah, so I finally got a chance to get to the owner, and the owner. This was, mind you, this was a Thursday. This was a Thursday that this happened.
Yeah.
I walked into the shop. I walked into the shop, finally get a chance to get to the owner. The owner's, he was just like, you got your license yet? I was like, nah, but I'm taking my test next month. Like it's already scheduled. He's like, okay. You got your own equipment? I was like, yep. He was just like, okay. When can you start?
Yeah.
I was just like, now, man. like I could start now. He's like, okay. Meet me at this address tomorrow at 9 a.m. And I was just like all my stuff, like bring my stuff. He said, yeah, I got a station for you, and you can start.
Wait, wasn't there?
No, it wasn't at the Hilltop Mall. It wasn't at that Hilltop Mall.
So you had a different spot?
He had 2 locations, which I didn't know. I didn't know that. Oh. I was trying to get into the mall. Mall. And he's just like, okay, this was his like original not his first location, but it was the main location. The mall was like a new branch. So I was trying to get on that hype. I was like, man, this is clean. Everybody, you think it's in the mall. It's going to definitely be a lot of walking.
Levels. You gotta work your way in there, kid.
Yeah. So he put me at the retired area, right? So I went to that barbershop, and I remember he was just like, yeah, you got to be there at 9 a.m. And so I did it, man. The next day I was there at like 8:52, pulled up. I had my stuff and hit the ground running. I think I made like 200 and something that first day, another 200 and something the next day. And I was like, oh,
nice.
I was like, yeah, like I didn't know that I could make that much money. Like,
isn't that crazy? One day you're like, I'm gonna get paid for this. Holy shit! Like, whoa.
Yeah. And it was the amount. Like I was used to charging like $10 for a cut just because it was friends and whatnot. And the moment that I became, in this establishment, they were at that time charging $15. So it was like I got a pay raise instantly.
No doubt.
And then I was
like,
okay.
Was it booth rental situation?
Or was
it W-2? Okay.
It was a commission structure.
Yes. Which is probably the best starting out.
But bro, this place did not operate. They didn't. They was shady. They were shady. That's why I can't name them, because I don't want to throw shade on their name.
Fair
but
enough.
Those who know. It was a commission structure, but they acted like it was booth rent, so that when it came time for taxes, they could write off how much they wanted it to look like. Yeah. And I was like, I didn't know that.
Taxes are like the most, dude. It's the most.
Well, he scammed me. Like the owner scammed me out of like he made me pay more in taxes than I should have paid.
Oh, wow.
Because he said that I made more than I did so that he could get a better write-off for giving me booth rent.
Wow.
And I was like,
so he was living off the perks of not having employees acting like it in the tax man's eyes, but benefiting from the perks of having employees.
Yeah.
What a weird thing. Like
payroll taxes and all of that stuff. He saved his money on that. He didn't have to do that. But yet that's pretty much how we got paid. We got paid as if we were getting like it was getting split. If I cut this amount of heads, you got this percentage.
Yeah.
But he didn't report it like that to the IRS. He just said that we paid this and we were free to do what we wanted to do. So it was, you learn lessons as you grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of corners that are cut by owners for sure. So after that, like, how long were you in that situation?
Man, that environment, it drained me. If you check out my YouTube channel, like
you guys talk about burning out a lot.
Yeah.
I always, that's one thing I harp on in this podcast, dude. That's my goal, to never burn out.
Yeah. And that's a tough one to accomplish if you don't have other stimuluses that give you the energy to do what you're doing. But
right.
The environment, man, it brought me to a low place when it came to the industry itself. I didn't want to be a barber just because of the
falling out of love with barbering at that point.
It was the people and the environment created by those that were running the facility. And it just didn't make barbering fun. It didn't make the interactions with my clients even like I didn't value it anymore. Yeah. I wasn't even looking forward to going to work. It was a problem every morning. I'm like, oh. Yeah. So by the time, like, I only dealt with that for a year. I couldn't do no more. I moved to a salon. So I completely shifted who I was around and how I was around people, because I went from being one male barber in a barber shop full of men with one female barber, and the conversations and everything that kind of goes with that. Right. And then I left that and was the only male barber in a salon full of all women.
I too went through the same thing, man.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's crazy.
When I moved to PA, I moved back east. I'm originally from West Virginia. Like, I always got to say North Central West Virginia, because it's a state that gets painted with one brush. But so, you know, I moved out to Arizona, worked, got that like typical shop environment type thing. And then my wife graduated with her PhD, and it was time to look for jobs. So we moved back east. She gets a job at this private college in like Northwest PA. Hell, in other words, that's real. I love the people there, but like the weather and just the whole mood of the place is just not right. But so, yeah, that was my best option, working in a salon as the only barber. And it was kind of really respectful on both sides, because they knew they couldn't do what I brought to the table, and I knew I couldn't do what they brought to the table.
Yeah.
So, and
like, you weren't competition.
No, yeah. And it was.
Now, did you have to work on the same floor with them, like in the same space, or did you have your own area?
Absolutely. They turned my station like more for barbering, of course, you know, and I had the freedom to kind of charge my own prices, and it was still commission. Yeah. But I had a lot of freedom to, you know, in that regard, just whatever I had to do to complete my art and to make my environment right. You know, she was really helpful. She really swung the bat for me, man. She advertised for me. She got me a TV. We turned into a little like fella's corner over there, man.
Yeah,
it was cool. Definitely. I
didn't have a TV, but I did have a corner. But the thing that got me, I'm not sure if you had to experience this, was the first time I seen women get color.
Yeah,
like I was never
perm, dude.
Bro, that smell,
right?
That smell, man, it woke me up in the wrong kind of way, man. I didn't know. I was so, because
how about warning your clients, like, here we go, man, here we go.
Yeah, no, because I didn't. Man, my first experience. This is my first experience with that aroma. I'm in the shop, and we're all sitting there talking. We're laughing. I'm with my clients, and I just start smelling this. Right? I start smelling this smell, and I said, I let stuff go for a little bit, but when it becomes unnecessary, I have to say something. And so I'm sitting there, I'm smelling this, and I'm like, okay, so somebody had a bad lunch and they're not feeling well, but I'm just gonna keep going. But the smell got stronger, and so as it got stronger, I said, "Hey, y'all smell that?" Like, to the whole salon, I was like, "Hey, y'all smell that?" And so they know what it is, but they don't know what I'm talking about because they're used to that smell. So they're not thinking that's what I'm talking about. And so one of the, and I love her to this day because she knew how to talk to me. And so she said, Brad, and she looked at me and I was like, you don't smell that? You don't smell that.
She's like, you don't know what this is, do you?
She said, step outside, step outside, step outside. So she took me out and she was like, that's perm, Brad. That's perm. And I was like, perm? Like, why would y'all put that on your heads?
Right.
Like, why would y'all do that to yourself? And she was just like, that's how it smells. But don't you do that. Don't you come in here and do that. And so anyways, man,
I would always mess with my clients. Some of them I wouldn't tell them. I would just wait for their reaction. And then some I'd be like, you ever smell a human burned alive before? They're like, what are you talking about, man? I was like, just wait, man. Just wait.
Just wait. You'll smell it soon.
Yeah.
Man. But no, that was funny, man. My clients had to get adjusted to it. And then even like I sat next to a colorist and our stations were pretty close. When I saw foil like everywhere, and I had to, and it's so cold because the ladies, they couldn't leave where they were at. You know what I mean? They didn't know I was coming. They didn't know. That wasn't their fault. But here I am sitting right in front of them while they getting plastered. And so the thing that I would do is I would just look them in the eye and I would talk to them. And I would just say, how are you doing? How's your day? What color are you getting? I talk to
a lot of women in that situation.
Yeah. Too. And just make them feel comfortable versus just like keep like looking at them like, man, you look like you got electrocuted. So
that's cool though. You were bought into the team and you kind of made their client.
Their environment.
Now let me ask you this. What was their booking situation like?
So that was the first time that I had ever saw people take appointments. So my situation at the previous location where it was all walk-ins and they actually did not allow you to take appointments. They were like, no, we don't do appointments. And I didn't understand it. It made more sense in my mind to take appointments so that you kind of know what's coming. But they were
asked it a lot at that walk-in shops.
Like, they'd be like, hey man, can I just set an appointment? And be like, no, I'm sorry, we don't do that. You just got to come when you come and good luck.
Sit here for 3 hours.
Yeah. So this place, they showed me about appointments, but there was a really cool transition because I was able to go from walk-ins into appointments. Then I merged the two, and then I was able to shift completely over to appointments only. So, but they showed it to me, and that was a different kind of setup.
Nice. Yeah, man. We were like pencil and paper only though with our appointments.
We was digital the whole time I was there.
See, I got them in the digital age and then left.
Oh yeah.
So, like I left them with something. It felt good because I feel bad. So my wife's career obviously has moved us around a lot.
Yeah.
And Atlanta, this is our final stop.
Man.
But good. I mean, just they really rose me up and I helped them too. But I remember, dude, with that pencil and paper stuff, I'm getting calls. Sometimes I'm the only one in there, right? And I'm getting calls. The phone's ringing off the hook, whether it's for me or for the other two people that were consistently there the whole time.
Yeah.
We always bounce back and forth between like adding a third and fourth cosmetologist, but it's just me in there some mornings and
yeah.
I'm like, man, I gotta get interrupted like 7 times during a haircut sometimes.
Yeah,
we had phones at every station, like the old spiral, like
oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like
landline.
Yeah, yeah. So that was old
some people don't even know what that is, man. If you showed them a home phone that was attached to the wall or stationary,
stretching like, that spiral thing across the whole damn room.
Man, I was so happy when my mom bought a long cord so that I could go to my room and be on the phone.
All right.
I was so happy. I'd be like, I'm gonna be in my room, Ma. I'll see you in a second. I got somebody to talk to.
So how long were you in that situation? And you learned a lot from that situation. It helped you get a different side of things.
Yeah, I was in that situation from 2008 all the way into 2020. So 2020 is
nice.
Was when I was able to establish my own facility and kind of lease from the landlords. So
what was the moment when you were like, I have to move on now.
It wasn't even I have to move on. COVID completely changed the structure.
Right.
COVID broke down the greatness that we had, because we had that we became a one-stop shop for people.
Yes, that's
And
the idea.
we kind of grew into that as a team. Like, we grew into it as a team. So when I came, I brought the barbering element, and as I continued to grow, it allowed other barbers to kind of come in as well.
And you can mentor them, especially if they were
I could mentor
the barber
them.
guy.
Yeah, or we could just work together, because my cousin, he ended up coming and working with me there once he got his barber's license too. So it was kind of cool, because the facility, though, we would move. So we were once in Vallejo, then we moved to across the bridge for a lot of people, and moved to Pinole, like one area of Pinole. Then we moved to another area of Pinole, and that was where we were at in 2020. And when the pandemic hit, it shut everything down. Banks weren't working with people. Even people's landlords wasn't working with them. And it created a shift in the way that we did business, because if we were going to survive as a team, we had to separate so that we could stay together. Yeah. And so we all individually that were employees or 1099 contractors into this place, we all started our own businesses, and then we all began to lease from the landlords, which used to be our bosses. So we switched the model, and now we all make more money because of how the structure is set up now. So it's very good.
So that was one blessing from it, at least. But it had to be extremely difficult in the state of California to just continue on. I mean, it drug on for a long time for y'all out there.
Yeah, it did. We were just talking about that in one of the podcasts, just about the impact of COVID and how it kind of hit us up. So yeah, it was a tough time, but I grew so much as an individual through the pandemic, and I'm sure you probably experienced the same. Like, you started to become innovative in ways that you didn't know that you could or should, and you started to see different things and different aspects about yourself that were strengths that you never really used, because it was never a muscle that you had to develop. But here we are.
One thing with me, career wise, I was still just building and taking off as like personally, just in the world of barbering and just in that state, because of course I had to start over when I started, and that's been my story in a lot of ways. I keep getting like reset. Like, remember playing all the Nintendo consoles growing up, you accidentally bumped that reset button, you're like, oh man, now I gotta start over. Like, but you knew how to beat it, like you knew how to get to the upper levels. So like that's always the analogy I make. So like, I did this before, I can get back to where I was at least, and surpass that, hopefully even faster. And, I learned something every time. It humbles you. It makes you a better person and barber, for sure, when you have to do what I did. But I had a 1-year-old at home, man. I was just so grateful that I was able to get that time with my wife and daughter. So it was, aside from all the tragedies going on, and just, I mean, social justice wise, there was a ton of stuff going on around that time. So, outside of all that, stuff, I was just having a blast, man. I was kind of living life. But we're lucky enough, my wife was able to continue on virtually, and I was able to kind of get, some, just, if anything's going to give you some juice, it's something like that, and just your career, your dream taken away from you almost. And, coming back, you just have like a gust of wind under you. And for a lot of people like you, I'm sure it gave you time to kind of think about what's next, or how to pivot into what you're doing when you come back. It
shifted a lot. I think for a lot of barbers, including myself, you realize and kind of woke up to the fact that, especially if you were like the main breadwinner of the house, like that's what I am. And you kind of realize that, oh no, like if I'm stuck only being able to make money off of what I do with my hands, I'm putting myself in a limited situation, and it's not going to last forever. So you have to figure out other ways of making income. outside of the barber chair. And so I had already started to kind of enter into that space a little bit in like 2019. And
Yeah,
I
let's
was
talk about that a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So yeah, if we could, let's dive into your Instagram real quick.
Okay,
Just
yeah.
to give people like a kind of just a better look of some of the content you're about. So there's the page right there.
Yeah.
Got all your credits. So we kind of roll through here.
Yeah, so my mission right now is I'm just you see me with my clients.
Go ahead, man.
We be cracking up. Yeah, my mission right now is to kind of help barbers. It's been a passion of mine since 2020, and is to help barbers understand about the need to create passive income while you're behind the chair so that you don't get stuck behind the chair.
So you're getting into the coaching realm.
Yeah, I'm getting into the coaching. I'm about to launch some courses and some programs that's going to really allow a barber to take a step-by-step process through my journey and allow them to understand how they can implement it themselves so that they can set themselves up through their business and through the clientele that they already currently have to create passive income. Because when this happened in 2020, I was super thankful that I had started some stuff, but I realized the importance of trying to make this grow. Like because what I focus on right now is financial freedom. That's my mission, right? Financial freedom. And for me, my definition of financial freedom is any time that you can get your passive income to supersede your mandatory bills. If you can do that, it doesn't really matter how much money you're making, right? If your mandatory bills is $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 a month, whatever it is, if you could get your passive income to supersede that, then you can choose to work because you want to, not because you have to. And that's the goal for what I'm trying to do.
Are you looking into like sort of investing courses or just different options on how a barber would be able to create?
So no, I have a pathway. I have a pathway that I've like stumbled into it as I've kind of grown. But it starts with you being able to understand your habits. Because there's habits that you have right now, all of us have them, that causes you to miss money. Like you're losing money and you don't even realize it based on just specific habits that you may have. Then after you get these habits out of the way, then you can structure your business in a way to where you can start having a real goal, get a real plan, get a real strategy so that you can reach a financial goal. And then you structure the way that you do your booking, you learn how to create leverage, and then you can focus on income and your ascension process. So there's like steps that I kind of speak to for barbers if they want to go down this path, because what I found is people always talk about passive income and different things of that nature, but they're typically talking about investing in stocks, or they're talking about trying to save up, buy real estate, and then you got passive income from the equity, or you get passive income from the rent. But my approach is a lot more simpler because I didn't want to learn how to do that. I didn't have the time to save up for like buying a home. So I focused on what could I do with my clients? What can I do with my clients that would allow me to add value to them outside of the chair and be a benefit to them? Therefore, I could be making money away from just this fade that I'm giving you, or this facial that I'm giving you.
One thing that's huge with having your own clients is just having all of their data, their information. Like that's, I mean, in like the music industry, if artists just had every bit of data of all of their listeners, they wouldn't need Apple Music. They wouldn't need all this stuff. They could literally go direct. So that information alone is huge for us.
But a lot of us don't even capture it. Like when you say data, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Literally their phone number, their email, and their phone number alone is like one of the biggest streams of like data you can have for anyone. Their text, their,
the ability to communicate and connect with them.
And then if you're able to extend that and get into like card numbers and things saved, maybe it's some sort of subscription model, or
you can get into
your booking
subscription models. But
there's ways. Then you're unlocking all kinds of doors from there.
And I'm
a lot of people aren't privy to.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't privy to it, and a lot of people don't know how to do it through their clientele. They always seem that, you know, to get creative passive
Yeah.
income, they have to kind of do something completely different than barbering, and I've found a different way of going about it.
So outside of like maybe like the traditional supply and demand models, things like that, like raising your prices if the demand's there, or vice versa. Are you able to give any hints so far on what you're alluding to before you kind of, you know, drop or reveal your
What do
coaching
you say it
programs?
again? Say the
So,
question again.
like your programs that you're
Mhm.
alluding to, what are you able to kind of hint anything like a maybe just like a
Yeah,
like
so
one thing that would be an example of some of those things you're coaching?
yeah, so one thing, I mean, with when it comes to the business of barbering, you'll hear me say that a lot if you tap in and you look at
No doubt. Yeah.
my Instagram. Um, the business of barbering is broken down into like 5 steps, right? So you attract a client, then you learn how to connect with the clients, which what you was talking about, like getting data.
Right.
Then you learn how to create a bond with that client, meaning that you have a you build a relationship with them that allows them to stay stuck to you. Then you start to create habits, and you begin to learn how to habitualize positive behavior that causes you to create income. And then you learn how to optimize that situation. So that's a part of like the first program that I'm coming out with, is breaking that down. What's the most important thing that you need to do for
Yeah.
this flow to work properly? And then once you understand this flow and what you need to focus on first and those steps, then I go into heavily about the optimization of those 4 things so that you can learn how to build your business more for the passive income, because it starts with understanding how do you book people, and the way that you book people and the structure that you do it. It's not just having a booking platform that, you know, captures their cell phone number and their email address. It's about how they have access to your schedule and the way that you control supply and demand, because a lot of times we give either too much power to the client and they kind of
Yeah.
mess up our schedules, and then sometimes we don't give them enough power, and we limit them on what they can do when it comes to giving us money. And so I've
Yeah.
been able to bridge the gap in understanding how that works and how you can give them the gun but keep the bullets, and
Yeah.
they'll
One thing you're making me think of real quick, sorry to
yeah.
interrupt,
Now you
is
good.
like, you know, a lot of barbers tier out their pricing. Say
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, we do like a regular haircut at the shop, it goes down to a half, and then we offer a signature haircut, which is like a
Mm-hmm.
skin fade or like a faux hawk or anything like that.
Yeah.
And like clients will abuse that like price
Yeah.
tier where they're used to getting skin fades, but they're getting halves because they're saving $15.
Yeah.
And then like I did the same thing. I was like, skin fades are this and PA at a lot lower of a price point, of course, where I
Yeah.
was. And you know, you find out clients abuse that, and you're like, all right, no more. It's one price for every haircut.
Yeah. And
Like,
what's crazy is you make a lot more money when you start to learn how to simplify what you do. When you can
yeah,
simplify what you do for the people that are trying to choose from you, you'll make more money overall. Even though you may take a hit on a few things, you'll win in the long run if you understand how to do it properly. So that's what I go into in some of the programs that I talk about, is like pricing and understanding how to structure it, where it's almost like increased income based pricing. Like you know how to do it in a way where your
yeah,
prices are going to increase. Not that you have to raise your prices all the time, but based on their desires, they'll start paying you more because of what the way you structure your menu.
absolutely, man. So yeah, so stay tuned. Brad's about to drop that here eventually, as I see.
Barber,
He's
being
asking the
professional,
question,
do you want freedom?
do you want freedom?
If you say yeah, you're wrong.
So stay tuned for that, because he'll be continuing on that conversation. Let me mute that. And so you got the podcast, which is one way on how you can promote these systems and drop little gems along the way on the
Yeah.
pod as well, I'm sure.
Yep.
So let's talk about the podcast a little bit. So
Let's get into it.
your whole idea, stemmed from what with the podcast? Just like you asked me, kind of.
Well, it was actually a combined effort between me and my co-host, the Prince Delmar. We were able to actually host a show about entrepreneurship on a different platform called You Are a CEO. I'm very connected to it. It's the first place that I started to understand business. They were the entity that introduced me to understanding that I run the business of me first before I run any other business. I run the business of me, and I had to get that business in order so that I could run a business. And once I've been connected to them, I've always tried to encourage other people about them. But, barbers, we have like our own mind, and we kind of want to find out stuff on our own. We don't really like to listen to other people's most of the time. Yeah. But I'm still strong about who they are and what they provide, because it changed my life. And so I was talking to Delmar about it one time, and he ended up taking the chance to look at what they were doing, and he was interested in some of the stuff. But because of all of my efforts with You Are a CEO and different things, and they see kind of what I'm doing in my space, they wanted to have me on and see if I could have any other barbers on that would want to talk about entrepreneurship. And so we got
to be clear, you were featured on their podcast, or you linked up with them?
Yeah, I was featured as on a regular their show.
As a regular.
No. They brought me
as
on.
a guest on one of
they brought me on.
Okay.
So we did that, and there's actually I was also featured in like an interview with the owner and the CEO of that company, because he was been a long time client, and he kind of seen me grow through the industry.
Oh, nice.
So he wanted to kind of like give a little bit of honor to to my growth. So
great.
We was on this show together, and we hosted a class pretty much to that You Are a CEO community about entrepreneurism, and talking about what does success mean and how do you reach it as an entrepreneur, because we're both pretty successful in our professions and in this business that we're in. So that's how we started. And then based on
you've
that,
taken classes too. You've expanded your knowledge and educated yourself. I didn't want to not mention that on here. So that's how that's why I call myself the business-minded barber. Business-minded barber is always improving.
Yeah, always trying to get to another level. That's the root behind the name, Another Level of Barbering. Is I'm always trying to grow. I'm always trying to get to another level. I don't feel like I'm better than anybody, but I might be different. And so it's another level. It's not a better level. It's just another level. Right. And I focus on personal development, and I focus on really trying to understand business and articulating that in a way that barbers can understand, and then apply those business principles to what they do. So I'm saying all that to say, when we did that show on You Are a CEO, after that show, me and him was talking, and we was like, man, that was a good vibe that we had. Me, him, and one other barber, we had a good vibe. And while
that was fun.
It was fun, man. It was like really fun. And when we did it, we got a lot of praise in that community about the information that we were given. And lo and behold, he brought up the idea, hey man, we should do a podcast together. I had already done a podcast, and I had my own podcast channel, but I had kind of put it on pause. And I remember when we was talking, you was just like, yeah, man, most barbers don't get past episode 4 or 5. And I think that's literally where I hit, and I stopped. And I stopped because it was just me talking. It was only me talking.
It's so hard to do, man.
It's difficult. So when he brought up the idea about doing a podcast together, I was like, you know what? Let's do that, because we got a lot of history between us personally, but then a lot of history behind us when it comes to us in the industry. And how when I got started being a barber, he came out here, saw me, got impacted with what he saw me doing, and he chose to choose this as a profession for himself. So I was like an impact for him. And now when I see him grow, and his growth and his skill set is so like good, that now he's impacting me. And so now we're both feeding off of each other. There is no big brother, little brother when it comes to the barber game, even though he will always be my little brother. Delmar, you will always be my little brother. Yeah. So, but now we're like partners in this venture
Yeah, so
together.
talk about that, because that was one thing like I never got a chance to kind of, hash out with my potential co-hosts I had in mind when I wanted to start. And like I was joking with them, I was like, man, this thing blows up, we're not going to pull a Bobito and Stretch like, like feud all of a sudden. Like, so we got to figure this out now before things get, too big for us or whatever.
Well, one thing that me and him we spoke about strongly was the reason for the podcast. Like, what's the reason for it?
Yeah.
And our reason is literally just to be able to share insights on our journey and how we kind of got to where we are, but also to kind of give game to other barbers that are coming up and allow them to not make the same pitfalls, fall into the same pitfalls that we did, and kind of like have a better sense, but also to elevate their mind when it comes to barbering and realizing that this is a business. It's not just a hustle. You can really make good money and you can actually create financial freedom through it. Now, we don't go into all the details about creating financial freedom. We just kind of more so speak about our journeys, but that was the heart behind the podcast.
That's the revolving topic there.
Yeah. And so therefore, when it comes to like the financial side of it, our goal is not to like if it gets to the point that we monetize,
I'm right there with you.
But that's not the goal. So we can really structure it when that happens, if that happens. But right now we were really just focusing on providing value to the barbering and beauty community so that they can elevate within what they're trying to do.
It's funny because I saw Prince. He's like, no, I'm going to intro this episode.
Yeah.
So you guys kind of have that, like, I'm a New York Knicks guy. So, like, you're kind of like Breeny and he's like Van Gundy. Like, he's the personality, but you're the play-by-play sometimes. Like, and then you kind of switch off and do vice versa. So that's cool. Yeah, you kind of have that understanding.
We're good friends, like really good friends. I mean, he's not a biological brother, but he's pretty much my brother. So the camaraderie and the feel that we present, it creates a good environment for a listener, for sure.
No doubt, man. Yeah, it's awesome. So you guys so how far along are you right now?
We are currently on episode, I believe 6 should have dropped. 6 dropped last week. This week, I mean, y'all listening to me and it's like it's gonna be 2 weeks later. But we doing a 12 episode season, and we did 6 episodes straight.
I wanted to ask about this. So you're gonna do a season. I'm like, man, the season stuff, like, how do you even like
So this was Delmar's like idea and thought process behind it, was really being able to allow the viewers, allow the people that choose to follow us, catch up, but also be able to follow us with understanding, and versus just following, like picking up in the middle of a movie or whatever. They'll be able to understand where we've kind of come from, and they'll be able to see when we shifted. So season 1 is about building continuity between me and him, kind of really finding our voice, finding how we speak, what we speak about, what do the people that are watching, what do they pay attention to most, what do the views look like, all of that kind of stuff. We're kind of hashing that out through this season 1. We did 6 full episodes. We took 1 week off, and then we're going to hash out another 6 episodes.
So do you plan on taking time once you finish the season?
Once we finish season 1?
Yeah,
we plan on taking some time and just kind of like recalibrating. But after that, that's when we want to bring on guests. So in season 2, that's where we're going to start to bring on guests and allow people to. We'll be able to help elevate other barbers that are in the industry, because we're not the only ones doing stuff. And if you've seen it, we don't feel like we're the only elevated barbers either. We feel like we're trying to create a community of people that are elevated within their own mind, and they want to share this space. So whether you're an entrepreneur of a beauty, barbering, you can own a Chinese restaurant, you can own a plumbing company. It doesn't matter, because we're dropping gems about entrepreneurship and business just in general. So anybody can join it, but we're just trying to be a vocal leader in that space of being elevated in your business.
See, I knew you'd have a method to the madness, man. So I always wonder, I was like, I don't think I just want to go and just keep track of the episodes, but like So everyone does it different. That's why I love having other barbers on with podcasts. I linked up with someone in Tennessee. They're like a trio of hosts. It's called the Barber College Success Podcast.
Oh,
And,
okay.
I've had all of them on. So the last member, the last third, that was the episode coming out this coming week. So then yours will come right after.
So you did the trio individually, or you had all
Yeah.
3 of them on at the same time?
No, did them individually. Because,
Okay.
the main thing I want to drive home is just the story, because when else is your story going to get shared, really? You know what I mean? So it's important that we tell our stories, because it makes us who we are, and it gives just like the regular person an understanding that like we're human and we go through trials, and that's part of the hurdle of getting people on, because they got to open up a little bit. Like, you talked about losing your mother and just like maybe coping with that a little bit. Like, it's hard. Barbers are really introverted, and the younger they are, the harder it is for them to express themselves,
and the harder it is for them to be honest with themselves.
Yeah,
because we're living in a generation where you got to show what you want people to see.
Yeah, people get embarrassed, and it's over. Like, they're so afraid to be embarrassed.
Yeah,
that's why I was
toughen
like,
up.
Yeah, like, come on, man. No one cares. What are you afraid of? Man. What are you afraid of? That's my big thing. That's what I've been asking myself a lot. I'm like, what are you afraid of, Matt? Like, just do. Like, come on,
just do it.
Yeah.
And I'm with you, man. Even when it came to this education stuff, it's taken me so long to get it launched because of the fear of acceptance, right? Like, if people going to really listen to me? Are people going to really take what I'm saying seriously? Who are you, right? Look at your followers. You don't have enough followers. All of this stuff is in my psyche. But at this point, it's like, I care too much about the industry, and I care too much about the barbers within the industry that care about being financially free, because they still want to be barbers. Like, with some of us really like being a barber. We're not trying to make, I shouldn't say make $1,000 a cut. Like, we want to be a barber, and we need to make money. Like, those are two things that are very real.
That's the
balance.
But
we're not 1,000% in it for the money.
Exactly.
And there's a slight difference, because right now it's a high craze of trying to get to $100 haircut or getting to $200 a haircut. And those prices are doable. They're not outlandish, so to speak, for like a lot of people. But when you think about the effort and the drive that you have to go to try and get to that point, at a certain point, you're going to realize that you stop caring about people and you're only caring about the money. Like, you have to get there, because you're going to be cutting off so many relationships of people that have been with you, that have, you know what I mean? They've grown with you. They've seen you.
You guys talked about the sweet life, and you thought you were going to take everybody with you, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, where is everybody? Like, where's my people? I thought they would come. So I can't understand. Like, in our shop, we went through a little transition in management, and just like, tale was all his time. A couple owners got in business together, and it didn't work out for both. Like, they didn't end up liking each other in the end. Yeah. So, we've kind of moved on. It was kind of like a Kanye and Jay-Z thing, or a Dame and Jay-Z thing. And Kanye was like, where am I going? So I was kind of like put in that situation. So I decided to stay with Dame.
Great analogy, man. Great analogy.
I'm staying with Dame, with The Rock, and we'll keep it moving. Yeah.
But man, as you go through this industry, you'll notice all the shifts that you need to make.
Absolutely. So, we're talking about the podcast too. So, so you guys decide to release on what day of the week?
We release on Monday mornings at 9 a.m.
Monday mornings, 9 a.m. That's like supposed to be one of the best times after actually doing research on when it is supposed to be good.
Oh, for real?
I release on Sunday, which is like the worst day you want to post something on Instagram. I found out.
Really? I didn't know that.
In terms of
I don't know this social media stuff.
Yeah, I learned that about you too. You're not huge on social media. So what made you be like, I gotta get on here? And
the original was like back in 2015. People were just telling me about it. There was like, man, if you in the industry, you need to get on. So I got on, and I personally didn't care about it. I was like, I don't care about what people is like. If I don't know you,
Yeah.
I don't need to know you. That's how my mentality is. Like if there's no reason for us to cross paths, then we don't have to cross paths. Like I don't have to force the issue. And that's kind of how I felt Instagram was and all social media. I was like, man, if you know me, call me. If you text me if you need to talk to me. But I got on there and that's one of the things that opened my mind to what other barbers was doing outside of my shop, outside of my area. It's like, I was like, so I was able to start like growing through seeing other people and what they were doing.
That's what barbers are, man. We're a combination of everything we've witnessed, and we make it our own, and we put our little,
our twist
magic on it. Yeah.
So that's what got me on Instagram, but I'm not a poster. Like if you like, I don't have a whole
gotta keep it pumping, man.
Yeah, I don't
Just
have
like on YouTube. You coming every week with an episode, they see that, and that kind of goes into what makes an algorithm work, I guess.
Yeah, your consistency.
From my understanding. Yeah, the consistency. Like just on what do you use for your like putting out your audio for your podcast?
We use Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
What's the distributor though? Like
he take care of that side.
Okay, so that's cool. You kind of got that end of it. So I use something called Buzzsprout. So that's what, like I can edit whatever I want to edit on the episode there, and it on Spotify and Apple it reflects what I do on there. So I don't have to like go on that, do that, go on that.
And that's strictly for the audio. Like you strip the audio from this.
Yep.
You strip the audio from this, and then you go on
something called Buzzsprout.
And then you do the audio edits on that. How come you don't just
so I edit everything video wise, and I export the audio. I just strip the audio from the video, and I basically copy and paste everything from the YouTube episode, like the description and title and everything. I just put it in Buzzsprout, and it automatically spits out and distributes everything audio wise. On the other platforms.
Okay.
So that's how so whatever you're hearing here will be heard on the audio version.
Yeah, that's why it matters. I remember we was talking about it, and we were like, okay, we need to get the setup like this. And we were talking about cameras and different things of that nature. And I was like, hey man, no, we need to care about the microphone, bro. The microphone matters most. Like get your audio in a space where people can easily listen.
Yeah. There's this thing called like magic mastering you can do. I pay for it, but I don't even know if it actually makes a difference.
Yeah, I don't know. Like your mic
someone told me like a WAV file sounds better than a MP4 file. Or no, a movie file, MOV sounds better than the WAV file sounds better than the MP3. That's what it is.
MP3. Okay. Yeah, but
MP4 is like the video.
Yeah, MP4 is video. But yeah, I don't know all those details. I just made sure we got a good mic.
You guys kind of distribute the tasks of the podcast and maybe split the costs of it. Yeah, it ain't cheap either to get this thing together.
People they just think you throw some on YouTube and you good. And there's nah, you got to do the distribution. You have to even have like subscriptions to certain things so that you can have like the right video formatting and everything. So yeah, but it's a good situation. I've really been having fun doing the podcast with him. Yeah.
Every stress, like I like semi prepare, and it was a quick turnaround with your preparation because I just shot an episode 2 days ago. So I was kind of like putting all my eggs into that preparation. I'm like, okay, now we got to pivot. It's so hard to like do multiple in a week.
Yeah.
And not neglect someone. So that's why, I like to give everyone a full promo run for that week. Like I make like 3 to 5 reels and I use my Instagram to push the link to push them to YouTube and to push them to the other platforms that you can listen on the podcast. Yeah, that's how important my Instagram is to me because that's what I have the highest following on. I've kind of used this network of moving a real network of, developing followers and moving around. Of course, you get fake ones in there too. You hit that like Indian algorithm sometimes. Like, who is this guy? Great. This guy is a big supporter, apparently. So like, yeah. But yeah, man. So we're going a little long. So I had some questions I didn't even like touch yet.
Oh,
And we're gonna
really?
miss a lot of them. I had a lot of
Okay.
questions, man. But we just went, and sometimes it works out like that. Now
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the time I don't prepare questions and it doesn't go. And then I'm like, all right, guess we're wrapping this up at 35 today. Like, so like,
No, I see your episodes, man. All of them it was
they go
long. I
long.
was like, but when you get people on there that have energy and can speak and you guys can feed off each other, it doesn't it doesn't come off as bad.
No doubt. Yeah, and that's what the reels are for. That's what you make clips for. So you can show them parts that they may have not, had the patience to get to, or just, take it from a different light. So one thing real quick, I always find it fun. What are your bones to pick in this industry? What are some of the things that like you want to share? Any bones you got?
Yeah. So my biggest bone to pick with the industry is the way that it's portrayed. Like I don't like that we see ourselves as employees by our behavior, but yet we also try to act as if we are the boss. So people that like I always look at different people on Instagram, and based on what they say, I'm like, oh, he's an employee, and he don't realize it. Like, he's a mental employee. But the people that complain about, like, when you start to roast your clients because they don't tip you, that's a pet peeve of mine. It's like, bro, you should be grateful that they're paying you the price that.
That's what I tell them every time.
Like, you asked for this price, they paid you that price. They didn't tip because either they can't afford to tip, they don't want to tip, or they're not grateful. Like, they might not be grateful. That's why it's called gratuity. But
the retention has always been my biggest thing. What am I going to do to the retention of the client to get them to come back?
Yeah.
And you got them pulled in and you got them tight, and they're not going to slip out. That is my biggest concern. So when they tell me like, oh, I can't tip, dude, or like, oh, I messed up on the POS, they start making excuses. You're like, dude, just come back. That's all I ask. Just come back. So it's totally cool, dude. Like, we pull each other up sometimes too. Like, everyone goes through something. Sometimes you can offer a free haircut in a pinch to someone that's been holding you down for a long time. And we're people, Brad. We're people, right?
Here we are. There we are. And you have to be that. You have to be that for your clients. Like, you have to present yourself as a person that owns a business, and not just be so business all the time that you don't have no emotional connection to them. You're just all about your money only. It makes the interaction only transactional versus.
It's not sustainable either.
Yeah, it's
that
not
feeling that of
that
whatever that makes you feel like that's positive. That's not sustainable.
Yeah, that term, compound interest.
Compound interest. Yeah,
compound interest. The reason why I'm bringing that up is because you can't build compound interest in your business if you are always losing clients. Like, you have to retain people. You have to retain them so that the interest can grow, so that you can create more value for them and build your income. But when you just are so transactional with people, then they're only going to pay you for that one thing.
Right.
And even if they stay or they don't stay, it'll be very, like, they're to the point. So that's why it's a bone to pick, is when people start to complain about their clients. Man, these are the people that are helping you live your life. These are the people that are allowing you to go on your trips and go to Colombia when you need to, or when you want to. These are the ones that are helping you pay for the school clothes for your daughter, the events and things that you go. You're gonna complain.
Yeah, it's fun to tell stories and to like make people understand how like weird some of your clients can be, or like it's like.
There's always going to be that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, man, we should all be grateful for the fact that we have 100%. People that are, subscribing to our business, man.
We're able to express our art and like BS with the fellas all day.
Yeah.
We're the females. So, we did plenty of that in the salon, and certain female clients as well. So I don't want to not mention that. But my bone is, I'm going to keep it related, is to, like I was talking about, holding on to that client, retaining that client, is letting them go too. So
Yeah.
when I was away, of course, some of these clients are my weekly people that like they still need to fill the void, right? So they go to someone else in the shop, and you can't be so desperate and make it seem like or get super upset if they go to someone else. That's going to happen eventually anyway. If you can't be, you just let them fly away and you make them understand what you bring to the table, and they'll come back. If it's worth it, they'll come back. And if they aren't coming back, then salute, man. Hey, God bless you. It is what it is. You're not the only client I have. It's a shame to see you go. I hate it, but hey, man, it's nothing personal. I get it. It's not. I get it. I don't fit to whatever you're looking for, whether it's schedule, style, whatever, personality. So,
and you be comfortable with letting them go, because they're not yours. You know what I mean? You can't possess a person.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just like when you're in that, I'm still at the employee level, and once you're in the studio, you don't have to worry about anyone else in the environment. Then you can kind of feel a certain type of way, but like, especially if you're in a conglomerate, like you definitely can't get upset.
But even though you may be in an employee model, you don't have to have an employee mindset.
Absolutely. No.
You know what I mean? You don't
and
have
I was
to think
talking to that about my GM the other day, because she was interviewing a barber, and there was a small incident. I won't get into the details of it, but it happened right in front. It happened with someone that used to be with us, and it happened exactly when that interview was happening at the bar, because we have a bar inside of our barber shop. And I was kind of talking to her afterwards. I'm like, what the hell? Like, that time it couldn't have been any worse when that happened. And so she was just talking about, like, we look for people that are like, they have their own boss mentality. And she's like, you're someone like that, Matt. Like, I never have to worry about you. You're a responsible adult. Like, and you also have a following of your own, that you're able to be self-sufficient, and, you market yourself. Some people just get in a shop and they expect that just everything to work out. Sometimes it does. Some people are lucky, but sometimes you got to work a little bit to get the people in your chair, and it's not exactly the shop that you're in's responsibility for that. Like, I'm not saying they shouldn't help, but you can't view it like you're depending on them to help you build clientele. Like that starts with you.
Yep.
And so,
the moment you get your license, I always say this, you'll see me say it a lot, is the moment you get your license, you are an entrepreneur, like by definition.
You're a business.
Yeah. No, you're an entrepreneur. I won't say that you're a business.
So let's talk about that, because let's talk about.
I was getting on Delmar about that. Actually, I was getting on Delmar because we use the phrase like, we're a business, but if you were to look at there's a difference between
literal difference, and then there's more. So go ahead and get into that. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you have the ability to own a business, right? You're an entrepreneur by default. That means that you have the ability to get a 1099. You get a chance to get, in the eyes of the IRS, you are your own entity, sole proprietor, LLC, C Corp, or a S Corp, whatever you decide to do. Either way, you are an entrepreneur, because you have to like go and solve problems for your money. So the problems is people's nappy heads, or they hair too long, or whatever. And that's the problem that you solve for them. And you say you solve that. But when you begin to own a business, then you understand the difference between cutting hair and then the process that it takes for a business to stay alive, which is how you make money. Like the whole process, everything that connects that person from how they found out about your business, to how do they book with you, to how do you get them to come back and make more money off that process. That's what I speak about a lot in the education. But that process is what a business is doing. And the goal of a business is to eventually go from working hard to learning how to work not at all, but still get paid. And so all real businesses, they focus on that circle. But we as barbers, like getting passive income. But we barbers, we focus on working hard, and then we've also focused on working smart-ish, but not really. What we're really doing is working different. And then we focus on working less but making more, and we stop there. Those are the three things that we typically do. And a lot of people
surface.
It's all pretty surface, and it's all connected to the work. Like it's all connected to the work. So instead, like the typical mindset will be like, okay, I charge 30 for a haircut. I'm about to work smarter and not harder. And their mindset will say, okay, I'm gonna go to $40 a haircut. Like that's how they go work smarter, not harder. But that's not, you're not doing nothing different. Like working smarter literally means it's about being efficient. You're learning how to be more efficient at what you're already doing so that you can make more make more money for what it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
Then when
a
you
lot
get
of
into
layers to efficiency for sure.
Yeah. It saves time. It allows you to decrease maybe expenses because you're working smarter, not harder. You're not using as much product. You're learning how to streamline your process so that you can make more money. Then you get into working less and making more. And so that's when you can add different services that are premium services that will allow you to make more money, but for the time that you're spending doing it. Then when you get into passive income, it's a lot bigger, but we get stuck on only thinking retail. Like, okay, I got some hair gel for you, my guy. You know what I mean? And then you think you add it to your ticket, and you really did. But there's a lot bigger of a world of passive income that we don't know how to tap into because it's not readily available. Like you have to kind of be exposed to certain things that you can do that adds more value to your client. So that when you think about the business of barbering, that's what I'm talking about. And that's what I'm kind of getting into. That's why I say that you are not the business. Like the barber is not the business, because if you look at any corporation or any actual business, when you look at them, the business is the labor. And if we keep that in our mind as the business is the labor, then you'll never get to the point of being the owner where you're getting the money, but you don't have to work. So you have to, I'm trying to be big on that, is shifting the barber's mindset in regards to how you look at yourself. You have a business, you own a business, but you are not the business. And once you can create that separation mentally, then you can start to exercise the habits and the behaviors that allow you to be a business owner and not just be the laborer.
For sure.
Yep.
Too. Like I use barbering as a motor for a lot of things.
It's a vehicle. You got to let it be a vehicle.
No doubt. Do you have, like, I'm kind of getting personal here. Do you have an IRA or a 401k set up?
No.
So invest into?
No.
So I had a guest on, and he's one of my clients. And I consider him a friend, and he has his own podcast too. His name's Mark. He has his own podcast. It's called the Better Wallet Podcast. Okay. And that's his whole business. He's a sole employee. He used to be a financial advisor, but he comes from my humble beginnings. He was in foster care, and just now he literally doesn't have to worry about anything because he created all this passive income. And so I had him on because part of the deal with this podcast, I want to invite on barbers can benefit from too. People barbers can benefit from. So I was able to corner him in my chair, and I mic'd him up for an episode. It's like 14 or 16. It's one of those. But he was talking about how easy it is to set up an IRA.
Yeah.
But one of the things he was talking about is you have to know how much money you're spending, let alone everyone thinks about how much money you're making. If you don't know how much money you're spending, then you have to document and record all these things, and then you're able to kind of really situate and organize your attack easier.
A lot easier.
That's why I'm almost excited to plateau in my shop where I've maximized every bit of earning I could do. And then, because I'm a company man, then again, I keep getting reset. I'm not out of the realm of opening my own business for sure, but I understand it takes time, and I understand that the situation I'm in is a very good one. Yeah. And there's going to be a lot of potential and opportunities just being in that building and in that part of the city, number one. But, I definitely want to start a 401k and just have something to retire on, because we don't need to be cutting hair when we're 80 years old.
Unless you want to
plan for the
unless
future.
You want to.
Yeah. And at that point, it's more of a hobby or a friendship keeper.
Yeah. I actually I had the opportunity to working with a older barber, and he was in his 80s, and it was nice to see him kind of come to work simply because he just wanted to talk to some people, you know, and he still could cut a little bit. I wouldn't let him cut my hair,
Right.
but he had his clients, man, and he came in there and had a good time. But
He
my
didn't burn
angle,
out. He didn't
no,
burn
he
out.
didn't burn out. He didn't burn out.
I love seeing older barbers, man. It's so inspiring to me. I'm like, okay, there's hope.
But he was in that situation where he didn't prepare himself, so he didn't have a 401k
So he has no
set
choice
aside.
either. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what he was doing, because he definitely wasn't cutting for the income anymore, like based on what he was doing and how much he was charging in 2020. No, 2000.
Hopefully it just wasn't Social Security and that's it.
I don't know. He was in the military, so he had probably some other forms of income
there.
But he also just didn't set himself up. And you have like the 401k route or IRA route that you can go. But one of the things that I personally didn't like, not that it's negative, it's just I wanted my cash to be a little bit more liquid. I wanted to be able to have access to my money a little bit more.
So one thing I learned, anything you put in to a 401k, or I don't know if it's an IRA, 401k, or both, anything you contribute, that's automatically, you can pull that out tax free.
Yeah, but it don't grow no interest though. Like,
no, it's not going to grow any. But
yeah, so that's
saying, like, you still have access to something. People act like you can't go in there, but it's just from what you've gained, you know, what's multiplied in there, or you know.
But it's like, why put it in there if you're gonna take it?
Exactly.
Because then it's not useful.
No doubt. I'm just talking emergency scenario. People act like they can't touch that money. You should act like you can't touch it, but you're able to. Tax
in certain ways. There is like a penalty though, even though it's not a tax penalty. It's a early removal penalty.
Yeah,
typically,
depending on who you're with. No doubt.
But either way, like, it's still a good route. Like, it's not a negative route. It's a good route.
It's a futuristic route.
Yeah, you're planning for the future. For me, my angle was insurance, and so I took the insurance route instead of going with the typical 401k. I took the insurance route where you invest in insurance, and that will allow you to have access to your money a lot easier with no penalties at all.
Just as like a stock? Like, what do you mean by investing in insurance?
No, not as a stock. It's you get what they call universal life insurance. Yeah. And universal life insurance allows you to pay like a bill, like insurance. But as you're paying in your insurance, you can reap the benefits of the growth of that and use the money for that for like homes and different things of that nature if you want to. But the money that you're putting in is always accessible. Like, it's always accessible. There's no penalty for it because you're the one putting it in. You could look into it. But my route was going down that way because your money can grow faster than it can in the 401k, because your 401k is dependent on the stock market to grow and whatever that business is investing in. If you use like a Charles Schwab or whatever like that, you can kind of dictate it based on your own understanding. But typically it has a slower rate of growth, but insurances, they have higher rates that they can grow at based on how comfortable you are with the risk that you're willing to take. So I like the insurance route for me personally. And then me really truly understanding the benefit of investing in cash flow, like things that create cash flow, is that's what I try to help barbers understand, that part, because you know, you can do the investing.
I got you to reveal a little bit. I got you.
Oh yeah. But yeah, just really understanding how to invest in things that create cash flow for you. That's huge. The thing is that you could do it through your clientele. Like, that's the other thing, is like, you don't have to go out and try and stand on the corner and start this new other business. It's like you have access to the minds of people and to the hearts of people, and people already believe you for a lot of different things. So if you really understood what you could provide value to them outside of it, because you know their needs, they talk to you about a whole bunch of stuff. You know, they share a lot of information. So if you were connected to different things that provided value for their needs, then you would be able to really make some good money outside of the fact that you gave them a fade or a facial.
Absolutely, man. use your clients, whether it's to educate you, whether it's, helping them out in a way that can also help you. It's kind of universal, man.
I say this, man. Clients spend money in 4 different ways, and you have to, if you understand it, you'll make some good money. You'll understand it. So the first way is that they'll invest in themselves. They're gonna spend money. They'll invest in themselves. They'll also invest in you as an individual. They'll pay for you, but if they believe in you, they'll invest in themselves through you. That's a difference. Okay. So they're gonna spend money on them. That's how come they come and get a service from you, right? They're like, okay, I'm gonna come and get a service from you. Then they'll buy a product. That's another way. They'll spend it, but it's still on them. They're spending for themselves. But when you get to the point when they can invest in themselves through you, that's the highest amount of money that you'll be able to make from them, is because they're connecting to things that they want, but it's through you. And that's not a haircut. That's not a service. Absolutely. That's not a product. It's deeper than that. And it takes
some people are lucky enough to, just show off their talent and their personality, and then something automatically works out that they're thinking like that, the client, that they can invest through you, but they're thinking about them, but you're along for the ride. And then some things are to what you're alluding to is you can make that happen through them as well. Yeah,
you could be a conduit.
Absolutely. So, my man, we're going pretty long. I want to go ahead and wrap this thing up. I know, absolutely. So I apologize for getting into certain things a little late, but we learned a lot about your journey and a lot about your platforms and what you're doing on them and how you're going to benefit from your audience and what this audience listening now is going to benefit from. And man, we just got to keep sharing the love and keep giving back to the barber community and our clientele community as well. And I appreciate you hopping on here, man, taking time on your day off. I get it. It's sometimes your day off, you don't want to especially your last day off before you head back to work. It's like, man, what am I doing?
No, I was good with it, man. I was happy to do this. I do got some other work. Like when I'm off, I'm working. I'm doing some other stuff. So
especially if you have a podcast, that kind of is what happens as well.
Yeah.
On your days off, it turns into podding and working towards the pod.
Yeah.
So man, thank you so much for hopping on. Once you guys hit that whatever you're calling it, invite your boy on, man. I'll be happy to hop on there if you're in need of a guy.
When we get to season 2,
yes,
let's
sir.
do it.
Hell yeah, brother. So promote this thing. I'm gonna share it to your Instagram. Make the thing full circle, man.
All right, man. It's time to level up. Let's do it.
Time to level up. Let's elevate, my man. I appreciate you. Have a good day, man.
You too.
Your Barber Podcast. New episodes come out weekly on Sunday. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify to be notified when new content is posted. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.